I'm Marissa, 27, and I live in Montana. I've been married to Brennan, who's 34, for 3 years. Most days we're happy, or at least I think we are. But today, I can't even look at him without wanting to scream. It started this morning, and honestly, I'm still shaking from the whole thing. Let me explain. So Brennan was already up and moving around the kitchen when I came downstairs, looking like he hadn't slept a second. That's just him, though. He's always so stressed, running on fumes and still somehow thinking it's enough. He works these insanely long hours at some boring office job that barely pays our bills. And while I appreciate what he does, it's hard not to feel stuck. We're not struggling, but we're not thriving either, you know? And when you're married, you're supposed to thrive. You're supposed to build a family. That's what I want. A baby. I've wanted one for so long now. All my friends have kids or are pregnant, and it's like, am I doing something wrong? I've tried to be patient, but I can't wait forever. I'm still young, but not for long. Brennan keeps acting like we need to hit some magical number in our savings account before we can even talk about it. Meanwhile, my biological clock is just ticking away. So yeah, we argued about it again this morning. It wasn't the first time, and I'm sure it won't be the last. I brought it up while he was rushing to leave for work, which I admit probably wasn't the best timing, but what else am I supposed to do? He's never home, and when he is, he's too tired to talk about anything important. He sighed the second I mentioned it. Marissa, we've talked about this. I'm trying to make things better for us, but we can't afford a baby right now. And we never will if you keep thinking like that, I snapped. I'm not asking for a mansion or a nanny. I just want a family, Brennan. Isn't that what marriage is about? He rubbed his temples like I was giving him a migraine. Marriage is about partnership, Marissa. Right now, I'm doing everything I can to keep us afloat, and you're acting like it's not enough. Because it's not. I blurted out before I could stop myself. You're so focused on work that you're forgetting what we're supposed to be building together. I'm not getting any younger, Brennan. He froze, his hand gripping the edge of the counter. Do you even hear yourself? You don't have a job, Marissa. Raising a child isn't just about love, it's about resources. I'm trying to make sure we don't drown the second we bring a baby into this. That stung. The way he said it, like I was some kind of burden. I stay home because that's what we agreed on when we got married. I keep the house running, cook, clean, and take care of everything so he doesn't have to. Isn't that worth something? But no, to him, it's all about money. I felt tears welling up, but I refused to let him see me cry. Instead, I just stood there, my arms crossed, glaring at him like he was the enemy. He glanced at the clock and groaned. Great, now I'm late, again. Thanks for that. And just like that, he grabbed his bag and left without even kissing me goodbye. I was so mad I could barely see straight. He acts like I'm the problem when all I'm asking for is the bare minimum. A baby isn't some luxury item. It's what people do when they're married. How does he not get that? After he left, I sat down with my phone, still fuming. I didn't even think about it. I just started typing. I posted a long rant on Instagram and Facebook, venting about everything. I didn't name him or anything, but I made it clear how I felt. I wrote about how hard it is to be married to someone who's so focused on work that he forgets about the bigger picture. How frustrating it is to feel like you're not on the same page about something as basic as starting a family. How I can't believe I married someone who doesn't want kids, and how I'm scared I'll regret wasting my best years waiting for him to change his mind. Was it dramatic? Probably, but I needed to get it out. And honestly, seeing the likes and supportive comments roll in felt validating. People got where I was coming from. They understood. For once, I didn't feel so alone. Then, a few hours later, my phone rang. It was Brennan. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. What the hell is wrong with you, Marissa? He said the second I picked up. His voice was low, angry, the kind of tone he only uses when he's really upset. Excuse me? I shot back, playing dumb even though I knew exactly what he was talking about. Don't act like you don't know. My mom saw your post, my coworkers saw your post. You put our private life on blast for the whole world to see. Do you have any idea how humiliating that is? I rolled my eyes, even though he couldn't see me. Oh, please. It's not like I named you or anything. People post about their relationships all the time. Not people who actually respect their partners, he snapped. You crossed a line, Marissa. A big one. And you don't even care, do you? I didn't know what to say to that, so I just stayed silent, my fingers gripping the edge of the table. He sighed, the anger in his voice giving way to something else. Disappointment, maybe. You know what? He said after a long pause. I'll see you when I get home. We need to talk. And then he hung up. Just like that. Now I'm sitting here staring at my phone, replaying his words over and over in my head. I don't think I did anything wrong. I was just being honest. If anything, he's the one who should be apologizing to me. But the way he sounded on the phone, I don't know. Maybe I went too far? Or maybe he's just being dramatic. Brennan didn't get home until almost 9 p.m., which wasn't unusual for him. By then, I'd had hours to sit with my thoughts and read through more comments on my posts. Some people were really supportive, saying things like, I get it, girl. Men just don't understand. Others were more critical, saying I shouldn't air my dirty laundry online. Whatever. They didn't know the full story, so their opinions didn't matter. When he walked through the door, his face was stone cold. He barely even looked at me as he tossed his bag onto the chair and took off his shoes. I could feel the tension radiating off him, and it made my chest tighten, but I refused to be the one to break the silence first. Finally, he looked at me, his expression unreadable. We need to talk, he said, his voice low and controlled. I crossed my arms and leaned against the counter. I figured as much. He gestured toward the couch. Sit down. I'm fine standing, I snapped. My defense is already up. If he thought he was going to lecture me like I was a child, he had another thing coming. He exhaled sharply and ran a hand through his hair. Marissa, what were you thinking? Posting that online? You embarrassed me, yourself, and our marriage. Oh, here we go, I said, rolling my eyes. This isn't just about you, Brennan. I was venting because I felt alone. You don't get how hard it is for me to sit here day after day, feeling like I'm not being heard. And you think the solution to that is to broadcast our private problems to your friends and family? To my family? My mom called me today, asking if we were okay. My coworker saw it. Do you have any idea how humiliating that is for me? Maybe if you listened to me for once, I wouldn't have felt the need to post anything, I shot back. You're always so focused on work and saving money that you completely ignore how I'm feeling. I ignore how you're feeling? He repeated, his voice rising just slightly. Marissa, do you even hear yourself? All I do is work to make sure we're stable, and you're sitting here complaining about your feelings while I'm trying to keep us afloat. There it is again, I said, throwing up my hands. Money, money, money. That's all you care about. I'm not saying money isn't important, but it's not the only thing that matters. I'm your wife, Brennan. You're supposed to care about what I want, too. And I do, he said, his tone sharp now. But what you want has to be realistic. You want a baby, but you don't want to talk about how we're going to afford it. You don't want to acknowledge that raising a child isn't just about wanting one, it's about being prepared. I folded my arms tighter across my chest, feeling the tears start to sting my eyes. So what? You're saying I'm not good enough to be a mom? That I don't deserve a family because we're not rich? That's not what I'm saying, and you know it, he replied, his voice steady but firm. I'm saying we need to be smart about this, and you need to understand that posting our problems online isn't just immature, it's destructive. Immature? I scoffed, even though deep down I knew he was right. You're the one who's so focused on controlling everything that you don't even realize how miserable I've been. He stared at me for a long moment, his jaw tightening. You're miserable because you refuse to face reality. You don't work, you don't contribute financially, and yet you act like I'm the bad guy for trying to protect us from making a mistake we can't afford. Oh, so now I'm lazy? I shot back, my voice trembling with anger and frustration. I do plenty around here, Brennan. Just because I don't bring in a paycheck doesn't mean I don't contribute. I'm not saying you're lazy, he said, his voice dropping again. But if you want me to take your concerns seriously, then you need to start acting like an adult. Posting about me online? Threatening to leave because I'm not giving you what you want when you want it? That's not how a partnership works, Marissa. That last part hit me like a punch to the gut. But instead of letting it sink in, I lashed out. Maybe we shouldn't be partners then. Maybe this marriage was a mistake. His face didn't change, but I could see something shift in his eyes. He nodded slowly, almost like he'd been expecting me to say it. If that's how you feel, he said calmly, then maybe you're right. But let me make one thing clear. I'll be fine on my own. You, on the other hand, I'm not so sure. The words cut deeper than I expected, but I couldn't let him see that. Wow, I said, laughing bitterly. So that's how you really feel? You don't even care about this marriage. I care about this marriage, he said, his tone still maddeningly calm. But I care about being with someone who respects me and what I'm trying to do for us. Right now, that's not you. I opened my mouth to fire back, but nothing came out. He didn't yell, didn't call me names, didn't even raise his voice. But somehow his calmness felt worse than if he'd shouted at me. Let me know what you decide, he said, grabbing his bag and heading upstairs without another word. I stood there for what felt like forever, my mind racing. I wanted to scream, to cry, to throw something. But mostly I wanted him to come back downstairs and tell me he was sorry, that he understood why I was upset, that he'd do better. But he didn't. And now I'm sitting here, wondering if I've pushed him too far this time. As soon as I heard Brennan's footsteps disappear upstairs, the tears started to fall. At first, it was quiet, just a few sniffles as I sat there on the couch, staring at the wall. But then it hit me how cold he'd been, how he just walked away like I didn't matter, and I couldn't hold it in anymore. The sobs came hard and fast, and before I knew it, I was full-on weeping. Loudly. I cried loud enough for him to hear me, hoping he'd come back down. Maybe he'd realize he'd been too harsh and feel bad. Maybe he'd sit down next to me, wrap his arms around me, and tell me we'd figure it all out together. But no, the house stayed silent, except for the sound of my crying. He wasn't coming back down. That realization made me cry even harder, but this time, it wasn't for show. I was genuinely hurt. After a while, I wiped my face and grabbed my phone. I needed someone on my side, someone who'd understand what I was going through. I called the only person I could think of, my mom. She answered on the second ring. Marissa? What's wrong? The second I heard her voice, I broke down again. It's Brennan, I choked out between sobs. We had this huge fight, and he just doesn't understand me. He doesn't care about how I feel, and I don't know what to do. Okay, slow down, she said gently. Tell me what happened. I launched into the whole story, sparing no details. I told her about our argument this morning, how he refused to even consider having a baby, how he made me feel like I was asking for too much. I even brought up how cold he'd been when he came home, how he acted like I was the bad guy when all I wanted was for him to see things from my perspective. When I finally finished, I waited for her to agree with me, to tell me I was right and that Brennan was being unreasonable. But instead, she surprised me. Well, Marissa, she said carefully, I saw your post earlier, and I have to say, I don't think that was the best way to handle things. My stomach dropped. You saw it? Of course I saw it. You're my daughter. But sweetie, putting your marriage problems on Facebook for the whole world to see? That's not fair to Brennan, and it's not fair to you either. I didn't know what to say to that. I'd been expecting her to comfort me, not criticize me. I was just venting, I said defensively. I didn't think it was that big of a deal. It is a big deal, she said, her tone still gentle but firm. Marriage is private. The two of you need to work through your issues together, not with an audience. I felt my cheeks burn with embarrassment. I hadn't expected this conversation to turn on me. Well, what am I supposed to do then? He doesn't listen to me, Mom. He doesn't care about what I want. I don't think that's true, she said. From what you've told me, it sounds like he's trying to be responsible. He wants to make sure you're both ready for a baby, financially and emotionally. That's not a bad thing, Marissa. That's what a good husband does. I bit my lip, feeling the tears well up again. So you're taking his side now? I'm not taking anyone's side, she said firmly. I'm on the side of your marriage. And if having a baby is really that important to you, then maybe it's time to think about how you can contribute to making it happen. What do you mean? I asked, even though I already had a sinking feeling I knew where this was going. I mean, maybe it's time for you to consider getting a part-time job, she said. It doesn't have to be anything big or stressful. But if you're serious about wanting a baby, showing Brennan that you're willing to work for it might make a difference. I frowned, my mind racing. On paper, it sounded reasonable, logical even. But the thought of actually going out and getting a job? It felt overwhelming. I hadn't worked since Brennan and I got married, and the idea of balancing a job on top of everything else I already did around the house seemed exhausting. "That's easy for you to say," I muttered. "You had Dad to support you." "And I also worked part-time when we were saving up to buy our first house," she reminded me. "Marriage is about teamwork, Marissa. It's not just about waiting for your partner to give you what you want. Sometimes you have to meet them halfway." I sighed heavily. "It's not that simple." "I'm not saying it's simple," she said. "But you can't just dig your heels in and expect Brennan to do all the work. If you want him to take you seriously, you have to show him you're serious too." I didn't respond right away. Deep down I knew she was making sense, but admitting that felt like admitting I was wrong. And I wasn't ready to do that. Not yet. "Just think about it," she said after a long pause. "You don't have to decide anything tonight. But if you want your marriage to work, Marissa, you need to start thinking about what you can do to make it better, not just what you want Brennan to do." "Yeah, okay," I mumbled, even though I wasn't sure I meant it. "Marissa," she said softly, "you're my daughter, and I love you. I just want you to be happy. But happiness takes work. It doesn't just happen." "I know," I said, even though my voice was barely above a whisper. After we hung up, I sat there for a long time, staring at my phone. Her words echoed in my head, but I couldn't decide if they made me feel better or worse. Part of me wanted to march upstairs and tell Brennan I'd thought about it and was ready to meet him halfway. But another part of me, maybe a bigger part, was still stuck on the idea that he should be the one coming to me. For now, all I could do was sit with the uncertainty, wondering what my next move would be, and if it would even make a difference. I sat on the couch for what felt like hours after hanging up with my mom. Her words replayed in my head, especially the part about teamwork. As much as I hated to admit it, she had a point. Brennan wasn't the enemy here, even if he didn't always see things my way. He was trying to be responsible, trying to keep us stable, and all I'd done was make him feel disrespected and humiliated. I picked up my phone, opened Facebook, and stared at the post I'd written earlier. The comments that had felt validating hours ago now just felt wrong. It was like a spotlight on my worst impulses, and the longer I looked at it, the more embarrassed I felt. Finally, with a deep breath, I clicked delete. Then I opened Instagram and did the same. It didn't make me feel better, not really, but it was a start. I knew if I wanted to fix things, I needed to do more than just delete a couple of posts. I needed to talk to Brennan. For real this time. I headed upstairs and found him in the bedroom, sitting on the edge of the bed with his phone in his hand. He looked up when I walked in, his expression cautious. I could tell he was still upset, but he didn't say anything as I sat down next to him. "Hey," I said quietly, my voice shaky. "Can we talk?" He set his phone down and turned to face me, his arms crossed. "I'm listening." I took a deep breath, trying to find the right words. "I deleted the posts," I started, my eyes on the floor. "You were right. I shouldn't have done that. It wasn't fair to you or us." He didn't say anything right away, and the silence made my heart race. Finally, he nodded. "Okay." "I've been thinking about what my mom said," I continued, still not looking at him. "About how I need to meet you halfway if I want a baby. I don't like admitting this, but I know I haven't been fair. To you, I mean. I've been so caught up in what I want that I haven't really thought about what it's been like for you." His expression softened, but he still didn't say anything. "I want to try to do better," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "I'm willing to get a part-time job if that'll help us save for a baby. I need your help. I don't know where to start, or how much we'd even need to save. I can't do it without you." He blinked, looking genuinely surprised. "You're serious?" "Yes," I said firmly, meeting his eyes for the first time. "I'm serious." He let out a slow breath and leaned back against the headboard. "Okay, I'll help you look for jobs and figure out a budget. But Marissa, this isn't just about money. We need to work on us too. The way things have been lately, it's not healthy." I nodded quickly, feeling a lump form in my throat. "I know, and I'm sorry for what I said earlier. about the divorce. I didn't mean it. I was upset, and I wasn't thinking. I know you were upset, he said, his voice steady. But Marissa, you can't throw around words like that just because we're fighting. Marriage isn't something you threaten to walk away from when things get hard. I know, I whispered, tears filling my eyes again. I'm sorry, I really am. He nodded, his expression softening further. Thank you, and for what it's worth, I'm sorry too. Not for what I said, but for how I said it. I didn't mean to make you cry. I wiped at my eyes and gave a small laugh. I probably deserved it. He cracked a small smile, the first one I'd seen all day. Maybe a little. We sat there in silence for a while, the tension between us finally starting to ease. It wasn't a perfect resolution, there were still things we needed to work on, and I knew it would take time. But for the first time in a long time, I felt like we were on the same team again. So, I said after a while, when do we start looking for jobs? He laughed softly. Tomorrow. Tonight, we just breathe. I smiled, leaning my head against his shoulder. For the first time, in what felt like forever, I felt like we were going to be okay. 6 months later, I can't say my life looks like I imagined it would, but it's different. I've been working part-time at the local grocery store for a few months now, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I hate it. It's not that the work is hard, because it's not. I work maybe 20 hours a week, standing at a register, scanning groceries, and making small talk with customers. But it's exhausting in a way I didn't expect. The constant smiling, the repetitive tasks, and dealing with the occasional rude customer, it's a grind, and it gives me a new perspective on what Brennan deals with every day at his office job. The biggest eye-opener? I only work a fraction of the hours he does, and I still come home feeling drained some days. I don't know how he manages to do 12 or 14-hour days and still find the energy to keep our lives running smoothly. I'll never say it to his face, at least not right now, but I have a whole new level of respect for him. He's been carrying so much weight on his shoulders, and I didn't fully appreciate it until I started contributing myself. The good news is that with my part-time income and Brennan's consistent work, we've started to make real progress on our savings. It's slow, but it's steady. We've mapped out a budget together, and it's been eye-opening to see how even small changes, like cutting back on eating out and tracking every dollar, can make a big difference. Brennan's always been good at managing money, and I'm finally starting to see why he was so insistent on being prepared before having a baby. We've also been communicating better. It's not perfect, but it's better. That fight 6 months ago was a wake-up call for both of us. I realized how much damage I'd done by not taking accountability for my actions, and how important it is to really listen to what Brennan's saying instead of just reacting emotionally. He, in turn, has been more patient with me, taking the time to explain his perspective without making me feel like I'm being lectured. It's a work in progress, but we're getting there. The other day, we had a heart-to-heart about the future. We sat down at the kitchen table, going over our finances and talking about our goals. It was the first time in a long time that I felt like we were truly on the same page. Brennan even admitted that he's starting to feel more optimistic about the idea of having a baby, maybe in another year or two, once we've saved enough to feel secure. Hearing him say that lit a fire in me. It gave me the motivation I needed to keep going, even on the days when I want to quit my job and go back to the way things were. The lesson I've learned from all this? Marriage is a partnership. It's not about one person getting everything they want while the other sacrifices. It's about compromise, teamwork, and sometimes swallowing your pride for the sake of the bigger picture. I was so focused on what I thought I deserved that I didn't see how much Brennan was already giving me: his time, his effort, his love. It took me stepping into his shoes, even just a little, to realize how much he's been doing for us all along. I still don't love my job, and I probably never will, but I've come to see it as a means to an end, a step toward building the life Brennan and I both want. And honestly, it feels good to know that I'm contributing to our future, that I'm not just waiting for Brennan to make it happen on his own. Looking back, I can't believe how close I came to blowing up my marriage over something that could have been solved with a little patience and understanding. Brennan's right. Marriage isn't always easy, but it's worth it when you're willing to put in the work. And now, for the first time in a long time, I feel like we're truly working together. As for the baby, when the time comes, I know we'll be ready. Not just financially, but emotionally too. Because we've grown stronger through all of this, and that strength will carry us through whatever comes next.